cryptocurrency giant met its incredibly rapid and shocking implosion. Right? It left so many people trying to recover money they may never see again. And so we've seen renewed calls for Congress to regulate the largely lawless industry. And lawmakers have responded by planning a series of hearings with 3 different committees. The first of which is actually kicking off today as we're recording, with the Senate Agriculture Committee hearing testimony from Rostin Benham, the chairman of the Commodity Futures Trading Commission, or CFTC, which, key thing, is under the jurisdiction of the panel. And in his opening remarks, Benham called for legislation to regulate the crypto industry and prevent the FTX disaster from ever happening again. But many experts are concerned that congressional efforts to better regulate the market will fall short or just fail entirely. And that is due to one tried and true reason as old as time: money in politics. Right, currently, the top bill being discussed here is the Digital Commodities Consumer Protection Act, or DCCPA, which, among other things, would give the CFTC more authority and funding to oversee crypto companies. The bill's been sponsored and championed by the Agriculture Committee Chair and Ranking Member Senators Debbie Stabenow and John Boozman, and Benham notably actually used to be a senior staffer for Stabenow and has also thrown his support behind the measure. And, another key thing here, so has former FTX CEO Sam Bankman-Fried, which, unsurprisingly, has raised alarm bells for many, many experts, many of whom view this as a transparent attempt by FTX to essentially just mold regulations as they like, with others also noting that this bill may be too advantageous to the crypto industry, which supports giving regulatory authority to the CFTC because companies believe they'll get more favorable treatment from the agency. And that is due to the CFTC being so much smaller and having way fewer resources than the Securities and Exchange Commission, who, another key thing, has taken a far more aggressive position on controlling the market. Now here you do have Stabenow denying the assertion that the legislation was basically written by Bankman-Fried, saying it was drafted over the course of many months with and influenced by many different voices. But here's where the money comes in. Critics say that the sheer amount of cash that Bankman-Fried and FTX have poured into Congress and directly to members responsible for deciding how the industry will be regulated indicates otherwise. Right, according to data from Open Secrets, Bankman-Fried personally gave more than $39 million to candidates and committees in the 2022 midterm elections. And FTX.US has given more than $70 million through individuals and PACs, making it the 3rd biggest influencer of political campaigns. And then, getting even more specific, 9 different senators on the Agriculture Committee benefited directly from those donations, including Stabenow and Boozman, who notably both received the biggest individual donations from Bankman-Fried at $23,200 each. Now, both those leaders, along with 4 of the committee's Democrats, have since said they plan to donate the contributions that they received, but the 3 others, all of whom are Republicans, have remained silent on the issue so far. This including Minority Leader Mitch McConnell, who is aligned with 2 campaign accounts that received a whopping $1.12 million from FTX sources. And understand, that is just about the money we know about, right? Bankman-Fried's donations to Democrats, they've been well documented, making him the 2nd biggest donor to the party in the last cycle. But, and I will preface this with saying we don't know what to believe from Bankman-Fried. I believe that he lies a lot, but he also recently said that he actually donated just as much money to Republicans, but he did so through dark money contributions which are not public. Though they're saying, this wasn't meant to sway lawmakers, saying the reason was not for regulatory reasons, it's because reporters freak the fuck out if you donate to Republicans. They're all super liberal and I don't want to have that fight. But again, I think you need to take Bankman-Fried's words with a grain of salt, especially around his claim that it's not for regulatory reasons, especially when you look at Bankman-Fried's broader efforts, where the massive network he set up for FTX to court lawmakers and regulators has been widely reported on, as has the fact that he's been in Washington a lot over the last half a year, specifically lobbying for regulations, with Open Secrets data showing that in 2022, the bill FTX.US most strongly lobbied for was the DCCPA. And so as a result, you have people saying lawmakers who received contributions are compromised here, with Craig Holman, an ethics expert at Public Citizen, describing the sheer volume of the contributions from FTX as absolutely breathtaking, and adding that the lawmakers who are working on crypto regulations should get rid of that money they received, saying, now that we know most of this money came through fraud and much through undisclosed avenues, these donations were meant to buy favors from Congress, not to reward admirable lawmakers. And so we'll have to wait to see what the lawmakers do. But also, even if they do that, there's no promise that other major crypto players won't just donate more in the next cycles. But also, that just touches on the lobbying problem in general. That's why I, and I think many people think, politicians in general can be bought. Even if some politicians don't think it's that way, the money likely makes it easier to swing a certain way. And that's both public and dark alike. And so where I'll leave this as a question for everyone. Yes, the general public, what are your thoughts here? But also, if you've been involved in any way in the crypto world at all, what are your thoughts based off of what we're seeing? And then the holiday season can be joyful for sure, but it can also be stressful. And a great way to cope with the hectic holiday stress at the airport, road trips, or just escapism is with the sponsor of today's show, Raycon. Raycon's wireless earbuds give you amazing audio quality wherever you go for half the price, which makes being the gifter pretty satisfying. Their wireless earbuds, headphones, and speakers offer premium sound and useful features with up to 54 hours of battery life. Raycons are sleek and stylish and come in a range of colorways to match anyone's style. And did you know that they are Siri and Alexa compatible? compatible. Plus, they're so comfortable with optimized gel tips for the perfect in-ear fit, so they won't budge, and really, trust me, they will not. Plus, for the next month, Raycon will have a countdown to Christmas with a new pop-up flash deal for you to take advantage of every single day. So just click that link in the description or go to buyraycon.com/DeFranco to get 15% off site-wide with code HOLIDAY. And watch out for that new pop-up deal every day during Raycon's countdown to Christmas. And as if it wasn't enough, they offer free shipping, free returns, and buy now, pay later options, plus a 30-day happiness guarantee. And then the hate and harassment online is wild. You have social media companies at least saying that they're trying to figure out ways to deal with it. Though I will say, as of right now, I don't see any of these companies actually doing a good job at it. Though that's not to say I have a better solution. I don't know how you handle hate and harassment at the scale of these companies, but every now and then we see a social media platform take a swing, and right now we're seeing Twitch take a swing, with them launching a new thing called Shield Mode, which is supposed to protect people against hate raids. Right when you have a large group of people engaging in the targeted effort to just harass a streamer. And we've seen this happen with a full range of creators, but also very specifically with Black creators, women, and LGBTQ creators. One of the most high-profile raids we saw this year was that happening to Pokimane. She's one of the biggest streamers in the world, and she was subjected to just disgusting sexual comments, people calling her a slut, telling her to kill herself. But they're later saying this impacted her mental health, that she fell into a state of depression, which, just to interject here, because I know there are people out there that aren't compassionate to people who are successful or have a lot of money. I will tell you, as someone that has probably received less hate than her, nothing prepares you for the mob. And it's so much easier said than done to just say, oh, we'll just log off. And I mean that for like a number of reasons, including like when a person's job is the fucking internet. These are people to a certain degree being harassed at work. Like, I actively try not to be on social media. I fucking hate Twitter, but I have to be on it to a certain degree for my job. And when I do use it, I just try and stick to just the main feed. What are people saying, but not to me? And so the way Twitch is set up Shield Mode is that with the click of a button, you can do a number of things. With Twitch explaining, you choose which combination of settings makes sense for your community, and you control when you deploy them. Things like follower or sub-only chat verification options like a phone or an email. You can also mass ban users who have recently used a certain word or phrase in chat that's being used to target you. And you also later have the option of unbanning users if you're afraid that you overstepped or you knocked out someone accidentally. You can also exclude first-time chatters. And then, yeah, with a click of a button, you can turn it all off. With Twitch saying that way they can protect streamers, but also not minimize them. With Twitch explaining, streamers who need online protection the most, including Black and LGBTQIA+ streamers disproportionately targeted by hate raids, often need online visibility the most. So particularly for underrepresented communities, we hope this will be a first step in helping you keep your community open and welcoming to new members, while also maximizing your safety. And online right now, if you look, the reactions are kind of mixed. Some saying it's too small of a step after so many years of needing something like this, though others saying it looks incredibly helpful and like it could make a big difference. And overall, we're just gonna have to wait to see how it's used, if it's effective, to what degree, because honestly, it's gonna be way easier to change what's possible on platforms than it is to change human behavior. And if the last few years show anything, human behavior is very much geared towards piling on, even for those of us that try to combat it. And then, do you remember that guy in New York, or I'm sorry, that fucking scumbag out of New York that punched that elderly Asian woman like 125 times earlier this year? Well, the good news is that worthless rat bastard of a human being, Tamel Esco, he was just sentenced to 17.5 years in state prison and 5 years of post-release supervision. And I know we're not supposed to say stuff like this, but I truly hope that the worst of what we think happens in prison happens to this fucking asshole. He, for no fucking reason other than having hate in his heart, like followed this woman into her home, hit her in the back of the head, he's calling her an Asian bitch as he's stomping on her. She ends up having a bleed of the brain, multiple face fractures. And honestly, the only homes this man deserves in the future is this prison sentence and then inside of the ground. And I'm thankful he was able to be charged with a hate crime there, and that there's just one less scumbag on the street. And then Jacinda Ardern and Sanna Marin, right? The New Zealand Prime Minister and her Finnish counterpart. They are in the news right now because you have people saying this thing that just happened is an example that you can literally be the leader of a nation and still get hit with casual sexism. Right, so Marin had been in New Zealand on a 3-day visit to discuss trade in Ukraine when a reporter asks, are you two meeting just because you're similar in age and, you know, got a lot of common stuff there? Or can Kiwis actually expect to see more deals down the line between the two countries? The fucking gall to be like, y'all just having a little girls trip, just gossiping, maybe do a TikTok dance together. You know, with this, you had Ardern instantly responding with,
my first question is, I wonder whether or not anyone ever asked Barack Obama and John Key if they met because they were of similar age. We, of course, have a higher proportion of men in politics. It's reality. Because two women meet, it's not simply because of their gender.
With Ardern then going on to explain that the two countries trade hundreds of millions of dollars in goods and plan to expand that, while Marin said,
yeah, we are meeting because we are prime ministers, of course, but as Jacinda said, we have a business delegation with us.
You know, well, I just thought it was like a really stupid fucking question, and it kind of brought me joy to see them dunking on the guy. There were a lot of people that were upset or just kind of pissed off about this, with one journalist tweeting that he was one sentence away from asking the prime ministers if they met to talk about boys and if their periods had synced up yet, as well as another saying they were surprised they didn't ask the Finnish PM if they were there for a sleepover. But also, I do want to know, the only thing that would be shocking about this story is if this is kind of like the last time it happened. That reporter works for News Talk ZB, which turns out is a heavily right-leaning radio station in New Zealand, and they appear to take whatever chance they can to bash Ardern or try to get under her skin. And, you know, stupid's gonna stupid, so what can you do other than kind of point and laugh at it? And then, Denny Masterson's rape trial has been declared a mistrial, where the actor best known as Hyde from That 70s Show had been accused by 3 women, each saying that Masterson supplied them with alcohol and that when they became disoriented,